Oh no no, oh no no, it's another episode of the law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker. You've entered the law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker.
You've just entered the law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker. If you've come for actual legal advice, you need to turn right around, honey. You need to get out of here, 'cause you ain't gonna get none of that. They quibble, and they squabble, and they bicker. But if you want to hear meaningless opinions, this is the right place. They got plenty of that. Stuff that makes no sense at all. They go off on tangents. It's crazy talk. If that's your thing, keep listening. They'll keep talking. Welcome back to the law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker on this December 2nd, 2020. And we have a brand new client today, which is weird because, normally our client's the same client every single time. But this time, it's a different one. And this client is aging is fun, but hard on the knees. Brendan did a good job of collecting this client for us. So, Brendan, why don't you give us some details here about what that means?
Well, I think as we all get older, the weird disconnect between how old you feel mentally and how old you feel physically starts to that separation starts to occur. It's like I still feel like I'm in my 20s, mentally.
Mentally, yeah, I hear you.
But physically, no. Like I'll get out of bed and I'm like, did somebody beat me up in the middle of the night? How does this happen? Or, I notice now, Bridget, my daughter, will call them dad noises. When I get up, I'm like, ugh, ugh. And I'll sit down and I'm like, oh my God, when did I start doing that?
I do so much groaning, it's pathetic.
Yeah, so aging is fun. There's certainly a lot to be said for it. I feel wiser than I was as a young person, but not completely, but more so. But at the same time, the body stuff just really drags you down.
Yeah, I say hard on the knees is definitely appropriate for me. I guess it was about 15, 16 years ago. So I would have been late 30s, just walking down a flight of like 4 steps. And then suddenly one of my knees just gave out. I wasn't
Oh,
even like nearly overweight compared to where I am now. It was just this bizarre thing where I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Why am I in like this excruciating pain from my knee? And why did it just go? And I was walking down without going at an angle or anything else, just a couple of steps, and then bam, I'm like, what's happening here? So I think that for me was one of the biggest moments of I'm getting near there. Because they say what, the age 40, you're over the hill, right? Supposedly that's
Yeah.
like the breaking point because it's kind of a midway point between when people croak because a lot of people die around the age of 80 or so.
yeah,
I don't know
70. I think 78 is the for men. I think it's 78, but yeah.
yeah, I think there's so many different averages that get into the middle of that.
In a strange way, I was lucky because in my young years, I had a bad back since I was 14 or 15, and I was always overweight. So I never felt that good, doing anything physical. So my decline, I didn't have as far to fall from. Like if I can imagine if you're like a healthy young guy who jogs every day, and then when you hit 50 or 40, you start feeling worse and worse. I always never felt that good.
I'm just glad
So
you stopped barking at us, Greg, because I was tired of you barking at us.
I'm angry about it. I'm so
we
angry I'm
we
barking about
we,
this.
we still have kids transitioning out of the house. So every time somebody comes or goes, the dog goes off. But
Transitioning.
yeah,
They're
They do
all
it really fast
changing
at
their
Brendan's
gender.
house.
yeah, it happens.
They're really fast at Brendan's house.
But
It just
for
switched immediately.
me, it was I must have been again. I was probably in my mid 30s, maybe early 30s, 33, 34, something like that. And for some reason, I decided to go out and get a skateboard because I was a skateboarder as a lad. And so I go and I spent, I don't know, God, 100, 200, almost $200, new trucks and wheels and this cool deck, and got it all home and fixed it all up. And I'm like, I'm going to go skateboarding. So I go out, I'm skateboarding along, and I'm fine for a while. And then, I went to do an ollie, right?
What's
So
an
like,
ollie?
an ollie is a trick you do where you kind of make your skateboard jump up. Like you see people skateboarding and then they hop up on a curb.
Okay.
And it's the thing you do with your feet. You kind of go pop up and pop it up.
Okay.
Anyway, I decided I'm going to do an ollie. And that didn't go well. And I wrecked. I just smashed it, which when I was a kid wasn't a big deal. But I laid there on the sidewalk for a while going, oh, my God. This is not the way it was when I was a kid. I would wreck hard. And then just
Were there young skaters around you laughing at you?
No,
like,
thank God.
Man.
No.
I learned that gravity is a lot more punishing as you get older. That it feels like you just land harder and more solidly. I hear myself lumbering around my house, and lumbering is the correct term. We're talking about me walking around, and I hear like the noises that I create walking through the house going, it's like everything's solid. It's like somebody put cement shoes on me, and I'm just like thud, thud, thud. It's
like Frankenstein?
Gravity has just forced itself upon me where I'm just fighting this thing. I think it's partially because I'm the size of a small moon. But besides that point, it
that's why we revolve around you. Your gravity.
Is that it?
Yeah,
yes.
That's it. At that point, I wasn't overweight. I am definitely overweight now, but at that point, I wasn't. So I don't know. I got up and looked at the skateboard, looked around to see if anyone was looking at me or laughing. Went home and promptly gave my new $200 skateboard to my son and said, "Here, you have a skateboard now."
What a great dad.
My first major, I guess, back giving out was actually in my first honeymoon with my first wife.
Oh, this sounds like a good story.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't because of that. No, it was just like,
damn.
3 days of my honeymoon was me spent laying there going, oh, this is great. This is great. But it was a good honeymoon regardless. We did lots of things. But yeah, that kind of sucked as part of it. But
what kind of things? Just kidding.
We went to like a wild safari, and I think we were staying at a timeshare that my uncle owned near the beach near San Diego. So we had a lot of really fancy dinners while we were down there. And so yeah, it was a good time.
I was fishing for something else, but that's okay.
Yeah, we got free tickets in the safari thing because some people had these extra tickets and gave them to us. We just happened to get lucky. So anyway, and I had about $2,000 to spend too. That was nice. I got them from relatives. So that was my dad said, and I'm not going to give you any gifts. He's like, I remember that when I went on my honeymoon, one thing that I needed was money. So here's some money. I was like, oh, thank you.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's
very, very, very practical.
It's good advice.
It's better than Tupperware.
And he was damn right.
Yeah.
The money was necessary because, we had a rental car. And anyway, so, but later on in life and after having a kid, I was like on a trip and I flew back and my kid comes up to hug me and I go to pick up the kid and then the back goes out again. And then I'm like laid up for like a week. And so that would have been in my early 30s. So I think that was like when the progression began. Little things started, here and there. And then it became regular having back issues for the rest of my life, essentially.
I consider myself so lucky, like all the guys like you guys and other guys I know that are my age that have back problems, knee problems. I've had none of that. I had some sort of herniated disc once where it hurt and I went to the chiropractor and I don't know, 3-4 weeks later he had done whatever witch doctor shit he did.
You're totally
and it was fine
right now. You shouldn't talk about this. You're jinxing it.
He doesn't believe in jinx.
No, I don't believe in jinxing. But what I have found is all sort of gut related issues, like heartburn, like you got
the lactose thing you were saying before.
Yeah, I became lactose intolerant at some point. So most of my issues revolve around my ever expanding gut, and so it's all centralized. And it doesn't lay me up. There are times where, I'm like, oh my God, and I'm like, I have Tums. I never thought I would be that guy. I've got like Tums on my desk, and I'm like eating Tums. And
I gotta say, it's
But-
like as I get older, I get, I'm breaking down more and more. And even if I'm like in a wheelchair, I think I might still be content with old age because, I can still read my comic books and stuff. But I gotta say that first time the doctor says, "Oh, Greg, you can't eat spicy foods anymore, or you can't eat this," I'm gonna be like, just give me euthanasia. Just kill me. Like, I've had an iron gut my whole life. For all my problems, I could eat anything. I was like a garbage disposal. I've never had indigestion. I never get that even now. I'm 53, and I could eat anything. Nasty food. So I'm lucky that way. But I got to say, I'm going to pack it in when they're like, "Oh, Greg, you can only eat wheat germ and, I don't know, honeysuckle or something, whatever."
Yeah.
Wheat German.
Whatever they
Is that
tell
a new
me.
diet?
Whatever restricted diet I'm on, I'm going to be like, nah.
Yeah, you have to eat
You're only
brick
allowed to
mortar
eat
and
beeswax.
shoelaces. What was that, Brendan?
I said he's only allowed to eat beeswax
Right.
And bee pollen supplements.
and bee pollen. Yeah.
No, I've been fortunate too. I don't really have gut issues either. I have so many other freaking weird things. So for me, it's like mental stuff is what I have, because I've had these like mini strokes, I think it started about 6 or 7 years ago. I just I don't know what happened, but I wound up having some kind of seizures, and they lasted for, I guess, overall about 3 weeks. Where they would just come on randomly, and I'd just be sitting on the couch, and I would describe myself as like a cross between like Joe Cocker and Sylvester Stallone. Where I'd be like, and I couldn't speak, and they would get aggravated, and I thought this was the extent of my life now. I thought I was literally going to be incapable of being a real human anymore because it was incapacitating. I basically took myself off the road because they would come at unexpected times, and I'm like, I couldn't in good conscience be driving.
Yeah,
right.
Possibly happen, and I had a stutter issue too, so I couldn't really get thoughts out very well, and it was so strange. And then I was like, all right, well, they wanted to put me on some kind of weird anti-anxiety medication or something like that. They said I had something called a conversion disorder, because of some way of handling stress or something. I'm okay. I'm like, I'm glad you've got a label for it. I said, but I would like to try some alternative methods before I go full-blown psychotropic medication thing to try and fix this stupid thing. And so I went and looked up something online for alternative health, and turns out there's a guy on there that I knew. I went, oh, he does this type of thing. He's a chiropractor. So I went and gave him a call and rang him up. And he adjusted me. He said, like, I had some compressed vertebrae in my my neck, and he had me go get an X-ray, and that's how he figured that out. And then he like adjusted me, and the next day the seizures had diminished, and then by the following week, gone. Right.
Wow.
So I had like 2 weeks of this with no let up. I'd seen neurologists, CAT scans, all this stuff. I was still a twitching freaking maniac. As a matter of fact, I remember going to a doctor's appointment with my wife, and I had to warn them that there will come a point where it seems like I'm having a heart attack or something. And that's not what it is. It's just I've been having these seizures, and they come on, and it definitely happened like twice. And they were like, "Thank you for letting us know, because we would have had to do something if we saw that happening." I'm like, yeah, deal with her. She's got her own problems. So anyway, and so then 3 years later, I had it happen once again, but it was just like a day thing, and paramedics were called because it was happening in my house. And luckily, by the time paramedics got there, I had kind of gotten. It was actually the day I moved into this house, or the next, it was like we were moving stuff in. It was like incredibly stressful period, because there was like this forced eviction happening from our old house while we were buying this house and trying to move in at the same time. And so, and then getting everything moved. And then all of a sudden I'm sitting in a chair, and suddenly I start going, hey. I'm like, damn it, it's back, And again, luckily the ambulance was called. by the time they started checking me out, I kind of regained my composure and I was able to stop them from taking me to the hospital.
Right.
And then, what was it, a few weeks ago or a few months ago, where it happened again. And this
Yeah.
time I actually did wind up going to the hospital for a couple of days.
I remember that.
Yes. So now I take a baby aspirin every day to help with preventing any, because they think it could have been like a blood clot in my brain or something. But ever since these
Right.
things have happened, I have difficulty remembering what words to use sometimes whenever I'm trying to think of a thought. It's like it just doesn't. I mean, I used to pride myself on being able to like grab the words out of the air and use the right ones whenever I needed to, and I was always like pretty on top of things. And now it's like this slowness has happened to my thinking, and it's just gets very frustrating. I mean, a
Do you
lot
ever
of
find yourself? I have that too, where words are definitely getting harder to grasp, and so I find myself using words I've never used in my life, like 50-cent words, if you will, because I can't think of the normal word at the moment. So I'll use some really fancy word,
what
a
are you
synonym
talking about?
for it.
Well,
Like instead of saying like I can't think of, oh, Matt's well spoken, but I'll forget that word at the moment. So I'll be like, oh, Matt's quite erudite, which I've never used that word when I was in my 20s or
well, at
30s.
least erudite is a word that would be appropriate. I was thinking
No,
you were
they're
using some
appropriate.
word. I thought you'd be
There are
using words that
synonyms,
didn't fit with what you were trying to say at
like
all.
aphasia. Like Matt is quite
He's quite aphasic right
pursuit.
now.
No, yeah, there are
There's
synonyms, but I find myself using words I've never, like only words I read. So somehow that's in my memory, and that'll pop out instead
you know,
of the
like the
normal
word
word.
"the" is a word that you read, and
No, I'm saying the words that I've only read. Like nobody uses these words, but I knew what they meant. But instead of finding the normal, easy to use word, it just doesn't pop in, and some weird word from my memory bank will pop up. It's nobody
Wow.
says that in conversation.
I find that like fascinating. I would love that to happen.
It
I
is
like
kind of weird.
using words that don't normally use. I like to use words that are.
But probably people think I'm being pretentious, but I don't mean to be.
I think anybody who knows you would know that you're not pretentious.
I know.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
You
I
you
couldn't
live
even
amongst
pretend to be
walls of
pretentious.
comic books. Nobody would think you're pretentious, Greg.
But they're good comic books. They're the high quality ones.
Sure.
Yeah.
I've experienced a little bit of that. I have a thing where I think it's a blood sugar, again, gut related thing where if I don't get some sort of balance in my body or food, or like if I don't eat, for a while, I'll start to shake a little bit. And then there'll be times if it gets really bad where I'll do that. I'll kind of like say, yeah. And so I was, that thing, I pull a total Joe Biden. It doesn't happen a lot. And I've learned to just like kind of ride it out if it's happening. Like I just kind of shut up and like gather my composure and then I'll say something. Yeah. It doesn't happen a lot, but I wish I was just pulling out thesaurus words. Yeah. That would be way cooler than what I'm
That's
doing.
another thing of like getting older is easy for me because I would always joke with my friends that I have Alzheimer's Jr. Like I had the worst memory growing up, like except about certain things like music trivia. Like I was Google before Google. My friends would call me up at 2 a.m. and say, Greg, who sang that song, Brandy or Fine Girl? There wasn't a Google back then. I knew that. But other than that,
all right,
my memory was so bad.
I need to take issue with you referring to yourself as Google. Maybe regarding some trivia, but I can't imagine it would be like if somebody asked you, what are the names of every son that Ragnar Lothbrok, the great Viking mythological figure, had? You could just pull them out of your head. Yes. Yeah. Or how many bricks are in the pyramid? Do you have that to hand?
It was a very small thing my memory is good at, like comic book trivia and music
trivia. So you weren't a Google, you were more of a goo.
Yes, I was just a goo. I was the goo. But I was that guy.
You're the gut in Google.
But even that sad, pathetic, trivial memory is going now. But I got to say, though, I'm ready for dementia because my whole life I've kind of been demented. Like this actually happened to me many times in my 20s. I'd go see a movie with someone. Let's say I saw a movie with my friend Joe. And then
let's say that.
The next day I'd see Joe at school and say, Joe, I just saw the best movie last night. And he'd be like, I was with you. Literally. I wasn't drinking then, too, guys. Remember, I was sober until I was like
That
35.
happened to my best man at my first wedding.
I
Whenever
would do that all
I
the
saw
time.
him like 10 years later, I was like, "Were you at my wedding?" He's like, "Matt, I was your best man." I was like,
That
"Oh
was
yeah,
10 years later, though.
yeah," but still, it
Mhm.
was kind of
That's
embarrassing.
pretty bad. That's pretty bad.
You can't
I
remember who
think
your best man was.
I think one of the things that I found that sort of makes me feel that way more than I mean, I'm still, I think, pretty got trivia shit on, but my kids will remember things from growing up that I have fucking no clue what they're talking about. They're like,
Oh,
Dad,
yeah.
remember that time that we did the thing and then we were going there and then you said that funny line and then we got ice cream? And I'm like,
Nope.
nope, not zero.
My
And
mother
I
does that
begin
to me.
wonder,
No, go ahead.
oh yeah? I was going to say, I began to wonder if they're gaslighting me. Like, let's just do some crazy shit and fuck with Dad. Hey, Dad, remember when you dressed as an alligator and we went to the zoo? And I'm like,
And we rode
no?
a unicorn through the park.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Dad?
No, you were an alligator. You had a hat. And I'm like, no, I didn't. And they're like, Dad. I don't know.
Remember that time Godzilla stepped in our house, Dad?
And my mother does something similar. She'll bring up stuff from my youth and go, "Why don't you remember that?" I'm like, "I don't know why I don't remember it." I'm like, "Because it's significant to you. It's not significant to me, so that's why I don't remember it."
Yeah.
So I could bring up stuff that you don't know. I remember I had a friend from high school who brought this thing up on Facebook once, where she said, "I remember you came to my house once and you ate all of our bacon." I went, "What?"
Wow.
Like I was visiting. She's like, "Yeah, you just like went to town on all of our bacon." I'm like, well, first of all, I apologize for being such a pig and eating all of your bacon. And second of all, I don't remember that at all.
Did they even offer you bacon, or you just went to the fridge and started cooking up your own bacon?
I have a feeling it was already made, and it was like something that we. I mean, I don't know why it was there, but my eyes are watering. That's the thing that's been happening to me as I've been getting older. My eyes freaking water for like no reason. Sometimes.
You're going through menopause.
Is
You're
that
getting
what
more
it is?
emotional.
You know, my
Yeah.
boobs have been getting bigger, so that could be part of it.
Is
And
that
more tender.
Perhaps a little bit. You know, the
I gotta
flow,
say, my
the
mom-
flow has
my mom-
stopped, Greg. So yeah.
My mom is a different thing where she doesn't remember anything from her childhood where she was the bad guy. Like even before her dementia set in, like she used to smoke in the car. In winter in New York, you couldn't roll the windows down. We'd all be like coughing. The kids would be like, "Mom, please stop smoking. We can't breathe." She'd be like, "Shut up." And my mom was a great mom. Other than that, very protective.
Other
But
than
when
giving
she
you
wanted to smoke, she wanted to smoke. And she'd be like smoking away going, "Shut up, just shut up." And we'd be like, "Mom, please." And like years later, I brought that up and she was like, "I never did that." And we were all the brothers and sisters there were like, "You totally did."
wait, did she
You
actually
always-
have that voice, that raspy?
Yeah,
Shut up, kids.
exaggerated a
You
little.
can't talk like
She
that.
did.
Did
She
she
did,
actually talk
but-
like that?
No, she didn't talk like Carl Malden. But I like
Alda
to be
didn't
my
have
mom's
like a
voice.
scratchy voice like that.
Yeah, and I'm getting there because she smoked a lot. Yeah, so she had a slightly scratchy voice, but she would always conveniently forget all the times she did shitty things and always be like, "That never happened." It's
Well,
like, shut up.
I have to say from personal experience, Greg, this happens to you nearly every week. That
Yeah.
you and I will have conversations about things, and you'll completely forget everything that we
Like,
talked
do I
about.
forget shitty behavior or just things in general? Or is it like me in denial saying, "Matt, I never did that shitty thing to you"? My mom's memory
You
was very
forget
selective.
conversations that we had.
No, yes, I'm saying bad memory, but and drunk and alcoholic. But my
Yes.
mom specifically just had a selective memory about things she didn't want to. She was basically lying. She would pretend they didn't happen. She had a great memory about other things.
I think we need to honor and revere our 70s parents, man. Those were the days. Kids with no seatbelts, smoking in the car.
Yeah.
My mom smoked like a pack and a half a day in our like shitty little 2-bedroom apartment.
While you were pregnant, probably.
Yeah, while I was pregnant, there was a
Yeah.
haze.
Well,
There was an-
while Brenda was pregnant.
Yeah,
No,
there was an LA level of haze in our apartment. I knew that I could come home high as a kite, smelling of weed, and she would
That's nice.
never know because she was just, the house was Territon 100s, just packing them back, watching Magnum PI.
Do you guys
I don't know.
Do you guys ever wonder how, like, our whole generation, our parents, I think all of our moms, my mom drank while she was pregnant. They didn't know. We didn't all grow up to be mongoloids. Like, it does seem this thing of, like, you can't have a drink when you're pregnant. Is it really true? I know it probably is. But all of our parents did. At least mine did, for sure.
I don't know.
All of our friends did.
What's wrong with our generation, Greg?
Well, there's many things wrong with every generation because humanity's flawed.
I'm not asking that. I'm saying what's specifically wrong with our generation? What's different between, because we're Gen Xers, right? So
yeah, and our parents drank.
What's wrong with our generation, Greg?
There's not enough of us.
There's not enough of us.
Yeah.
So we'll have no pull once the boomers all croak.
Yeah, I'm just saying it didn't seem like a race of super children grew up after they stopped drinking during pregnancy. It's not like, whoa, kids are so much smarter and better than they were a generation ago when moms were drinking during pregnancy.
See, we grew up in the time of neglect is what I think we grew up in. In other words, that's when like the latchkey kids were really getting highly operational, and people were coming home the parents weren't home because both parents were working.
I loved it.
And I think
so
that created a certain amount of self-sufficiency on our parts that we had to have.
Yeah.
Which is different now, where I think we give too much attention to the kids now, and they grow up being freaking highly filled with anxiety about things because they've were never really given the opportunity to really screw up.
Yeah, but I mean genetically, like biologically, like drinking during pregnancy is such a no-no the past 30 years, but my parents did. Nobody thought that was bad, and we weren't all like grew up with like, I don't know, flipper babies. And
well, Greg, would you say that your life has gone the way you wanted it to go?
Whose does?
Wow.
No, whose does, Matt?
Well, I'm just saying. I'm saying that maybe that's the effect of drinking had on you from your mother drinking during your pregnancy.
I'm definitely not that bright. I could have been smarter if my mom didn't drink.
Yeah, we don't know. We just don't know. I'm just saying that we don't know what it does.
True, but I didn't see this. It's not like scientists have said, whoa, since women have stopped drinking during pregnancy, our kids are so much smarter and less, whatever. I don't know, less diseases.
I think a way bigger factor, Greg, than parents drinking when they were pregnant, because I'm sure my mom did, and smoked, I'm sure of that.
Yeah.
Is that other chemical factors are what's really a problem. I mean,
other drugs.
No, just shit in the environment. Like I worked at an office back in the day, and I had employees and junior subordinates, and I can tell you for a fact that the young kids, when by young I mean 30 to 25, were way more often calling in sick than somebody 40 up. And I don't think it was just always a Monday hangover type of situation, because I would talk to them and they'd have to bring a doctor's note if it was 3 days. I think young people are much more ill than we were as kids. I can't remember a serious illness when I was between, 19 and 30. Maybe a flu hit me once. But young people now, I think there's something about the immune system that I don't know. I don't have the answer, but
I think that's definitely true. Like if you're
there's some truth to that. I've got 5 kids, and I think like 3 of them went through things like that, whereas 2 of them have not had any issues at all. So it's like it just depends. It really does depend. It's hard to say what the factors are that make up a screwed up birth, other than what happens after they're born and what the philosophies are of the people raising them.
No, I'm saying what I'm saying is it's not a pre-birth thing, it's a post-birth thing. It's stuff they're exposed to in the environment, and the fact that no one drinks tap water anymore. And I drink shit out of the hose as a fucking 70s, 80s kid.
So
I still do.
Yeah, and I
other
think
people's hoses.
Right. Yeah. So I think our immune system was stronger than I think
that's totally true. I think I was a dumpster diver for years, and I felt like I got less sick than most of my friends. I might just have a strong constitution, but I think I've inured myself to germs. I think like when the apocalypse comes, I'll be able to drink puddle water and not get dysentery.
So you could just go to the hospital and start licking COVID patients, and you'd be fine.
Well, this is a novel virus.
And
so
you could
now it's
ask them
immune
to like breathe into your mouth directly, and you can handle
It's
it.
a novel virus. So
I
I'm
think you
not
should
immune to
test that
yet.
theory out, Greg. I think you should go to every local hospital, ask for all the COVID
I
patients.
want to be quarantined.
Tell them
thinking
Tell them that you want to give them some succor. You want to give them some solace, and let them know that not everybody doesn't want to touch them. You'll be willing to touch them. They can breathe into your mouth, into
and
your
to suck
nostrils.
them.
They can
Give them succor and
can-
suck them.
They could lick your face. They could lick your eyeballs. You know what? Anything you want. You, I think, would be perfect.
This is a
for
great
all of
idea,
those
Matt.
dying, those
One of the best
ICU
ideas you've ever had.
isn't it? You love my ideas, Greg. So.
I wouldn't be afraid of going into an emergency room full of COVID patients.
Really?
I wouldn't.
I
No.
would. I'd be a little
wouldn't.
worried.
I mean, I would be a little worried, but I wouldn't be terrified. I wouldn't be like, oh my God, I'm going to die or I'm going to get it. Because I just don't get sick that often. I just don't.
I said that till I got pneumonia.
Yeah, I haven't had pneumonia. I'm sorry to hear that.
I think the difference is that I started working in an occupation where I was dealing with people a lot. And a lot of people would come to my job sick or what have you. So it became a little easier for me to become susceptible for that. But before that, I used to always say I was like the healthiest fat guy somebody knew. I never had issues. I never had illnesses other than like maybe a cold once or twice a year, and then I never got a flu shot or anything like that. But then, there was this one time when I caught pneumonia and I'm like, okay, this sucks. Never want that again, But anyway,
I've never had pneumonia.
Yeah, it wasn't fun. And whenever people were describing COVID as like basically COVID is a really bad case of pneumonia, and I went, okay, I can relate to what somebody could be going through if they've gotten that. No, I've only had it the one time, and again, I never want to have it again. But I know people who've had it multiple times.
Yeah.
But aging is supposed to be fun, so we've gotten way into the hard on the knees part. So what part of aging do you appreciate? What is it that you like about getting older other than knowing more than you used to know?
The lessening of hormones.
I think for me it's been I let more things go than I used to let go. Like you guys give me crap about quibbling about things, but this is nothing compared to my youth. That was like the master quibbler. It's like I had to correct everything. Everyone, if I thought something was incorrect, to a point of making mistakes. Sometimes
you do mellow out in your old age. It's nice to mellow out a little. Sometimes you were too passionate about things and obnoxious, maybe even. So I've definitely had that too, where things that used to drive me crazy and I'd be all furious. I'm like, let it go.
I'm just happy I got rid of my road rage that I used to have, because man, I had like serious road rage back when I was living in Washington D.C. I would just like scream and yell and pound on my steering wheel because people were not going the direction I wanted them to go, and flipping people off, and
Washington D.C. will do that to you. I drive in Florida, and Florida has its own unique stupid as far as driving goes, mostly because you've got two drivers. You've got some old 80-year-old man on the one hand, and then some methed out guy in a muscle car on the other. So there's just extremes. And if you're somewhere in the middle, you're fucked. But when I went to the last time I went to the Northwest, I went to Seattle, and I'm like, fuck, I'm going to be driving in a big city, and then I have to drive down to Portland. I got to deal with that sort of traffic. People up there, it would be hard to have road rage. I remember like in the car, just like, that fucker's not going to let me in. He's not going to let me in because Florida guy wouldn't let me in. And he just sort of slow down and let me in. And I'm like, what?
That's true. There are more polite drivers here than back east. That's definitely
Sometimes they're overly polite, though. I got to say, they're overly polite where like, I have the stop sign. I'm riding my bike. Just go on through. You have the right of way, and you'll be out of my way, before my bike even gets there.
I've learned that people here don't know what right of way means. Apparently, they don't know that if you get there first, you're allowed to go first.
Yeah,
they don't
especially
get
when
that.
I have the stop sign. Sometimes they don't even have a stop sign, and they stop for me, but I'm not sure they're stopping. So
those are the people that I still have road rage at, actually. Are the ones
I get a
who
little
stop
rage
when
with
there's
them.
no stop sign. I'm like, what the hell are
Yeah.
you doing? I'm trying to get somewhere. You're stopping for no reason. What are you doing? Crazy people. And I'll have a conversation with myself going, okay, why are you so angry, Matt? What are you being upset about? Why do you need to yell at people you don't even know? They don't deserve these names you're calling them.
But when
Right.
you were 25, you would have went with it for a month.
Oh, I had people I would chase on the road, for crying out loud. I was
No
psycho.
way.
Yes.
You
Wow.
would chase them?
I was psychotic sometimes. Oh yeah, I
That's
remember one
beyond
time.
road rage.
Yeah, I was like trying to like get near them because it was just it was like I said, it was psycho. I had some psycho moments back in my 20s. I think it was because of the after effects of taking acid. Is what I think
No,
happened.
don't blame acid. Acid's a great drug.
I can blame acid all I want. There was
I
a
did
time when I
wrong,
was
though.
on acid and I was driving down an interstate and I decided, I think I'm going to stop and go backwards for no reason.
Well, okay. Couple things in that statement. One, I'm quite confident I've done more acid than you. Two,
I'm quite confident you have as well.
yeah. Two,
No.
you never drive on acid.
I learned that the hard way too.
Yeah, that's.
I thought you were joking. You actually drove on acid. I thought you were making a
Yes.
joke.
No.
You nut job. What are you thinking?
I remember one time I thought it was fine. We went to this blues festival, and it was like me. There were three of us. Two of us took acid. One guy didn't because he was the one who was supposed to do the driving afterwards. But we were there for like 8 hours. So I figured at the end of that I would be okay because we took it at the very beginning. We were there for 8 hours. And then we started driving back, and I'm like, I'll be okay. I got this. Earlier, of course, during that evening, the two of us on acid threatened to assassinate the guy who wasn't. But that's a different story. So anyway, so then I get to driving, and man, that was the hairiest drive I think of my life.
Yeah.
Because it was the lights were really bright, and it seemed like they were all coming at me, and I'm like, oh, I thought I was done, but apparently I am not.
That's Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
That was outside of Baltimore.
Oh God! So it was back east in Baltimore. That
was on the Baltimore Beltway, going like from the bottom to the top of the Beltway.
That sounds like Willy Wonka's boat ride.
I
think that was the name of the acid I took, actually.
Yeah, I drove once, but we were like back country roads up in like bumfuck outside of town in Washington State. So it was just dark because there was no street lights. So I was just fucking like, I'm in space. And my friend was like, dude, let me drive. I'm like, no.
I'm in space. I gotta go.
I'm in space. But there was no one around. That's the good news. So finally, he just starts pummeling me, and I like have to pull over, and he drags me out of the car, and probably saved.
Imagining that pulling Brendan out of the car.
Probably saved both of our lives that night.
I gotta say, one of the things that getting older is definitely I don't miss the hormonal shifts that even go into your 20s, where like the highs. Maybe I was a little manic depressive, undiagnosed, I don't know, but I'd be depressed all the time. But then when I was happy and manic, I'd be like dancing around like fucking Barbara Streisand in a musical. I'd be just jumping and singing. I'd be so thrilled.
Do you have any video of that?
I love it. I'd pay for it.
Don't rain on my parade. But it was it levels out, and then which was nice because the sad parts, I wasn't like crying in bed every night. But part of me still misses, like, I miss being manic. I miss having, like, hearing a song, like a punk song on my tape deck and just freaking out in my bedroom by myself. I don't have that. That never happens to me anymore. So I don't miss it's like you even out. And part of me misses it, like the excitement of being young, even though it has some really bad parts where you're depressed and you're like, oh, the world sucks, and you just want to cry. I mean, this is never one. A lot of people are just happy campers, but I think a lot of people have that where the hormones kind of die out and you level out and it just gets more manageable.
We certainly make bad choices in terms of the opposite sex as well whenever you have the hormones.
Because you have more hormones and your dick's thinking. Your dick's thinking more than your brain.
It's like, what was it? Why did I do this? And then, it's like it could have saved me a lot of hassle.
That's nice
too. Years. Yeah, probably a few people I would have not gotten involved with way back. Although, you know, that still continued into my adult years, really. So, I guess I can blame it on hormones a little bit. Maybe it's just like bad choices in general. Just
Yeah,
lots
I
Yeah.
of
mean,
bad. They don't end the bad
you,
choices.
no, you started this by saying, what about, growing old is fun,
Yeah.
but then you qualified it by saying that not that you know more, which to me is about the only thing there is good about getting old is that, going to Greg's point, I do feel like I'm much more level-headed. I still get really pissed, but not like I used to. But at the same time, like Greg said, I also don't get super excited about shit like I used to. I can muster it, but it feels forced.
Yes,
But
enthusiasm is kind of a mystery to me these days.
Yeah.
uh, well, that's an interesting point. So, what was the last thing any one of us was like? I mean, not like psychotic enthusiasm, but really genuinely excited about.
Like really interested in doing something
Yeah,
about or
like
with.
oh my god, I can't wait that blah blah, or that this is happening right now, or I'm gonna do this thing. When
The
was the
only thing I can
last?
think of is currently is just getting my mother off of our mortgage. That's what I'm kind of excited about right now.
Thrilling.
Wow.
Wow.
Trying getting like making
But
that happen.
Can I have the movie rights to that story, Matt? I
I
want
mean,
to buy the movie rights.
that's funny. But is that true? Like that? Like literally that? You were enthusiastic
That's like the
about that?
one big thing that's going on in my life right now. Well, we've been in the middle of the virus thing, so there's not a whole lot else going on, right? So there's not a
That
lot.
no, that's true. I mean,
In terms of things that I tell people that I'm in the worst emotional state you can be in, which is I am contented.
oh
In
god,
other words,
yeah.
it's like the worst place you can be is being okay with how things are. And I've been okay, even if I've had some medical emergencies here and there, but I've been basically okay. I've had like no real ambition for years.
Is that the
Um,
worst thing, though? Is
it
that so
is
bad?
because you're not striving, now you're just
Yeah.
not trying to like make things greater. You're just kind of coasting along. It's basically like being toast. Yeah, it's okay,
Toast.
it's good, it's
Yeah.
useful, but
But how many
is
people
that all it's gonna
strive and
be?
strive and fail, though? You know what I'm saying? Like,
There's
yeah,
nothing wrong with failing if you learn something from it,
sure, but
you
it's not
know.
fun. It's not
Well, it's like
satisfying.
today I was decided to go on this kick to determine what it would take to have a career in doing voiceovers, right? And
You do good
so
at that.
it's an interesting thing. Am I excited about it? No, because everything I look at a little bit too carefully. When any venture I want to get involved in, it's like I see all the effort that's required to make something happen down the road, and I go, well, do I really want to put myself through all that? Do I really? What's the
Yeah.
ultimate game plan? I'm like these days, I'm just kind of I feel like I'm just counting the days till I can't actually work at all anymore. So I'm like trying all these various different exit strategies because I've been basically self-employed for my entire adult life and I have no real savings. I mean, what we have is basically the house, which is why we're getting my mom off the mortgage. Um, but there's going to come a point where my wife retires and she won't have any income other than pension, which is going to be that much. And where is that money going to come from to ensure that these mortgage payments keep getting paid off?
Your
Because
5 children will take care of you.
yeah, but all my children are all like working like grocery store jobs, so
I
it's
was
like
I was joking.
I don't see that happening. I just go, okay, well, I just need to prepare to have a lot of warm clothing for my days on the street afterwards. So
Oh my.
looking towards that particular as the next chapter in my history. Hello, you got a quarter? I need to give somebody else a quarter. Anyway, um, but in terms of something I guess the last time I was excited about something or like interested in something was probably in the early 2000s when I had this kick about doing stand-up comedy. And
Oh,
I took like a class on it, and then I started going to open mic nights. And then that's one of those things where I went, God, I just looked at the effort that it would take to make it in that industry. And I'm like, do I want it? I'm like, I didn't really have the ambition to be famous anymore. I'd kind of gotten over that. Over the course of my life, I've dealt with many different celebrities and I've dealt with political stuff. And I felt like I made my mark in the world like decades ago. And so from that point, it kind of like was like, okay, well, I've achieved everything really that I kind of set out to achieve. I'm like, I don't know how to make a time machine because that's like the thing that I'd really like to invent, but I don't have the slightest idea how you would do that. Neither does anybody else. I'm like, so yeah, I guess I'll just hang out for a while. So I've been hanging out for a long time.
Oh, all
And I
right.
do
Well,
things that make things interesting, but nothing I get like really kind of captivated by. There's nothing really new that's doing it. There's things that keep me busy. It's like recently I started doing website testing, it's kind of interesting because I'm finding about different things and different things that people are creating, and I get to put in some input on that.
That is not passion.
No, it's just interest. It's stuff that makes life more interesting for me.
I still have interest.
But it's not like a drive. There's nothing that's driving me to like incredible success.
Yeah.
right.
So, it used to be my kids, but now all my kids are adults. And I used to like supporting them, and now it's just they're going doing their own lives,
Yeah.
So now it's kind of like I look forward to our podcast every week. I look forward to one day maybe running karaoke again, because that I find fun. I don't necessarily find it like this driving passion for karaoke, but I really enjoy doing it. That's why I do it. It uses a lot of the things I learned from a long time ago, and it's become like this little mini career for me.
Brendan, when was the last time you had a lust for life and a passion for something? Or do you still have it? Maybe you still have that.
Yeah, here's it for you, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, two things. One, the last time I was like, I remember being kind of like giddy, like, oh my God, I can't wait till this happens, was I went to see the Foo Fighters in concert. And I'd never seen them. And I'm a big Foo Fighters fan. And I was like, it was coming up. And I remember, like being excited about it and like kind of not necessarily counting down the days, but like, oh, it's a week from now. That was the last time, because live music and bands to me are that. I mean, I get excited about, like, I don't know, if the Dropkick Murphys were going to come to town, I'd be excited about that and excited to go to the show.
I'd like to go with you if they do. That could
absolutely.
be fun.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
it's funny you bring that up because I saw Rush a few years back. It was like their 40th anniversary tour or something, and I knew this was going to be like one of their last opportunities to see it, and so I took one of my kids to go with me. And I think I kind of felt that way, but still I took it kind of matter-of-factly because for me, I never really went to concerts, I just didn't do it for whatever reason. I preferred studio versions of things to seeing bands live. So over the course of my life, I think I've gone to maybe 4 or 5 major concerts, I guess, and 2 of those were for the Grateful Dead, and I wasn't even a Grateful Dead fan, and I wound up going to 2 of those. So
yeah, I mean, for me, I don't know if Greg feels the same way. For me, live music is probably the single most exhilarating thing, even if I don't like it that much. Even if it's like jazz piano, and I'm not even into it. But just the live performance and the reaction of the crowd who are into it because they love jazz piano, I still get like kind of worked up about it. But that's probably, in terms of that sort of enthusiasm or I don't want to say ecstasy because that's a different, but that kind of like spiritual, like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm so glad I'm here. It's live music, and that's been the problem for me. One, because I with being a grown up and old, and you don't get to a lot of shows. But I would always try to find at least one a year that I would go to. And then now, coronavirus. It's just not.
Yeah, I found even when I was older, like basically, I got really old 5 years ago. I like just shut off.
You got really old 5 years ago?
Yeah.
You're 5 years older, Greg.
Somehow my brain switched. My brain switched, like, because basically I was the most healthiest of my life from 45 to like 49 or 50. And that was actually my golden years where for the first time in my life, I wasn't a fat guy. I was riding my bike. I was healthy. I was up for anything. I didn't have pains all the time. I wasn't throwing my back. But I stopped going to shows, and I loved going to see punk rock bands. Like, I'd go like once a week all the time. Even when I had no money, I'd somehow scrounge some money. And so in my late 40s, after like 2 years of not seeing a show, I went to a punk rock show. And I was exhilarated. It was ecstasy. I could use
that was the word I was looking for, exhilaration.
But this is the sad thing, because I'm an old man now. I was like, oh, I'm going back to that club. I'm doing this more often. And then I just forgot and just didn't care. And then like the next month I was like, yeah, well, I didn't forget, but I was like, that was so great. I got to do this more often. And then life got in the way, and I was like, oh, but I'm not going to, I'm
You know
going to stay
what?
home tonight.
You guys have kind of revitalized me on this concept. I like that idea of going to see a band once a year. You know, it's like I just never made that as like a goal, but that could be a fun thing to do, I think.
Well, it's almost at our age we have to force ourselves to do it because you forget how fun it is. Sometimes it's amazing.
Well, you know,
and you forget
so I had
how
a friend of
great it
mine
is.
who's in Thievery Corporation, right? I think I told you about this.
Yeah.
He's the sax player for Thievery Corporation, which is like a dubstep band. They were pretty big about 8 years ago. Anyway, I didn't know he was in this big band, and I went to go see them perform at a local venue, and where there's like people around the block lined up to see these guys, you know, and which shocked me that my former fraternity roommate was like in this big band, and they did like 3 encores. It was like one of the most fun times I had in a long, long time.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
this is great, but I never equated it with going to see somebody else again. I went because he was a friend of mine,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's why I went. It wasn't just to go see a live band. And, you know, I'm like thinking back when I was in college, I used to go see live bands often, you know, like maybe once a week or every couple of weekends.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
friends with band members, you know, and um, so I don't know what happened somewhere along the line. I think I just got into a career mode, and I just didn't go to live music anymore. You know, there was a time like in the '90s where I barely listened to the radio, for that matter.
Yeah.
But you know, I think that I would be interested, Greg, in maybe when the whole COVID thing dies down, you know, maybe we go out to like some music venues here and there. You know,
But we couldn't decide on the band, Matt.
well, whatever. We could just like flip a coin. I wouldn't give a shit. It'd be like something, and just to support a local band of some kind.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and
I gotta say, I'm not
they
that
could
thrilled.
potentially suck. You know,
I don't like seeing a jazz piano guy play if I don't like the music, but like punk rock is like such a visceral thing. Like seeing it live is really potent. Like your body just starts moving, you know,
Oh, yeah, yeah. I was
against
just
your
saying,
will.
well, you know,
I-
one of
I-
my kids goes to these house shows a lot. At least they did before COVID happened.
Yeah.
And so I would hear these things, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember doing stuff like that back when I was around your age. I'm like, what the hell happened? Like, where did it go? You know,
You got
there's
old.
something changed along the way. I don't know. Things became less interesting to me, I guess. You know, I get more interested in like bigger issues outside of my own entertainment. You know, and I'm
Yeah.
thinking maybe I should be more interested in my own entertainment again, or something.
Yes,
I don't know.
absolutely.
Yes,
There's-
you should watch Netflix
It's like
shows.
I go
about
back to just
housewives.
being more of a spectator.
Yeah.
So,
There's one thing I wanted to bring up for
It's
our
not
clients
just
is-
that show, Greg.
I know, but do you guys find that it is interesting as people get older? They're just like, I gotta say, they're less sociable. Like, remember when you were in your 20s and 30s, your friends would just pop in. You know, people. I guess they had more time, but it does seem like as you get older, you're just more like, I'm fine staying home. And you guys have wives,
Yeah.
and even
yeah.
So you have reasons
I
to
don't-
be home too. You know?
I
Right.
have no one.
I
have
like
no
my
one.
wife. I like spending time with her.
Oh,
so
I
it's
know,
like,
and
yeah.
I'm totally alone, and yet I still feel this, even though I should be lonely and be like, oh, I wish people would come by. I still am just like, oh, I'm so glad I'm going home tonight. I'm going to be by myself.
Well, when I was
When-
between wives, I was like that. You know, I was okay with
Yeah, being
staying
alone.
home or going out, and you know, I think my basic routine was I would go to my job, and I would then go home, and that was like my routine most of the time. But I did a lot of dating too. You know,
Well, that's sociable. Yeah, that's
for
being
me,
sociable.
dating was kind of entertainment because I was like, oh, what's this
That's
woman going
really
to be like?
entertaining. Yeah,
I'm like, how is
yeah,
this woman going to reject me?
yeah.
I'm like, how's this going to work out?
Or what fault you're going to find in her so you can reject her.
Oh, those are easy to find.
I know from you.
I think, did I tell you like my stock answer for breaking up with somebody? Did I ever
What
do?
was it? You
It's
might have told me.
it's there are aspects of my personality that will probably never mesh with aspects of your personality, and it's for the best that if we really, we really shouldn't make this go any further because that could become very problematic down the road. So, I like you definitely. I'm like, but there's obviously problems with both of us that could never work out. So we should just end these things at this right now.
You are such a smoothie. Look at that. Like,
You,
I want to fuck
I
up your
never
women,
had
but I'm going to give you a
I
nice
never had a
answer.
negative reaction to that, other than one woman going, "Well, I think I could work with that." I'm like, "No, I just really wouldn't be a good idea."
No, that's a very smart.
Because it's pretty
Smooth answer.
true too.
Yeah.
It's a true statement, and for the most
Yeah.
part, the question becomes, what. It's like a friend of mine was telling me. He's like, Matt, at this stage, at our age, he goes, everyone's got red flags. I'm like, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Everyone does have red flags. There's something wrong with everybody to some extent. So the question is, what of their red flags are you willing to tolerate? And growing up, and as we get older, we start witnessing which red flags we're willing to deal with more so than other red flags, things that are wrong with another person. We go, you know what? I'm okay with that. I can handle that personality flaw, but that personality flaw, no, it's just not good.
Right.
So
I just don't have too much, unfortunately, to contribute to this. In that next year, Holly and I will be married for 30 years.
you guys are amazing.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. We've obviously been through our ups and downs for sure, but we've always sort of worked it out. Sometimes
that's what makes you
against
amazing.
one or the other's will, one of us will the other to make it work. But going back to what you were saying about motivation when you get older, I feel like, like I was in a corporate job and, it sucked, but did it suck any more than anybody else's corporate job? Probably not. It had its own unique bullshit, but whatever. But I decided, you know what? Fuck this. And I was, 47, 48? And I said, you know what? Fuck this. I'm going to go back to working for myself. I'm going to build a business, and I'm going to quit this fucking soul-sucking job. And I'm going to work for myself, and I'll be able to work wherever I want, and blah, blah, blah. And I did it. It took me a couple of years. I had to spend nights, like every night, like studying shit and learning shit and learning technology shit and doing all this stuff that wasn't necessarily, in the front of my mind. But I was driven by the fact that I didn't want to just die in this fucking cubicle at this software company and fuck that shit. But it took a lot of work, and I was motivated. Was excited? I don't know. It was a lot of work. So someday I was motivated for sure. Some days I was excited and I felt like, I was moving in the right direction. And other days I went into like horrible depression and like, this is never going to fucking work.
Yeah, I've gone through entrepreneurial stages, and I've learned that one, hate having a boss or anybody over me, and two, I hate having employees because I've done them both. And I'm not a fan of either. Some people who work for you are totally fine, but it's just all of the red tape, all of the hassles, all of the taxes and things you have to deal with, all of the potential problems that employee has. I'm like, you know what? I just don't need that kind of aggravation in my life. So I've kind of gotten to this, where I don't make a lot of money with what I do, but I'm so much happier with how my life is that it's, and I'm fortunate because my wife is, the bigger breadwinner, but together we have a pretty good life because of that. So it enables me to have a little bit more fun. But she's a really creative person too, as well, because she's like running like 2 other businesses while also having like her full-time position as a teacher.
Yeah, my challenge was in terms of the more getting paid, it was 100% me.
Yeah.
And so I had to like stage it out like at a certain point, I'm not going to make that like given salary anymore, which was that's what sucks you into that whole game. It's like, okay, this sucks, but I know how much money I'm going to get each month, and that covers my bills in a little bit, and I'll put up with whatever bullshit. Versus being an entrepreneur and like, this month was great and this month sucked, and you got to kind of find balance in the force. But you know, like I said, I don't think I was exhilarated about it. But
yeah, it's hard to be exhilarated when you know you're giving yourself problems. You know,
yeah,
because you know you're giving yourself problems to solve.
Right, but I was up for the challenge, and I was into it from the perspective of I was like, okay, so what do I need to learn now? And I had to motivate myself. I'd come home from work at like 5. I'd do like an hour with the fam and dinner and whatever, and then I'd go upstairs, and I'm like, okay, what do I got to know? What do I got to learn? What, you know.
When I was having my, yeah, I get it totally. When I was running my PR consulting business, I guess the moments of excitement I had were, what is this potential client's occupation? Because the cool thing about having PR and marketing jobs is you have this wide range of clientele that a pool that you can draw from in terms of where you can get work, right? And I had a guy who did industrial clean rooms was his job, and then I had another woman who did an organic beauty salon, and that was a whole new concept for me too, because like I never went to a beauty salon or anything, and and the organic clean rooms, that was a whole different ball of wax too, you know. And then I had a guy who ran a nightclub, and I'm like, you know, those were the things that were interesting for me, was what is it about other people that makes their lives interesting, and that I think is where I still derive joy from life, which is why I watch these reality shows, because what they do is they give me this microcosm of individuals that I wouldn't necessarily come across on my own. And I get to kind of get an interesting magnifying glass into their lives, which are generally staged to a large degree, but still, you know, those different personalities and how they interact and what they do, for me, that's what I really find fascinating. So people are still of strong interest to me in general, you know, and for what reason, it's hard to say. I think it just goes back to the old PR days where I just like really being interested in how can I predict behavior, and how people will respond to different circumstances. And those wacky shows, those reality shows, give me a really good idea of people with certain personality types, how they will respond to certain situations, and how I can be prepared for that if it ever comes across my own way. So in terms of aging being fun, for me, it's every time I find out about a new person and learn more about them, that I think is what engages me in life still. You know, as long as I can keep learning new things about other people, that I think is more fun. So that's like why today I was looking into this voiceover thing, and I'm finding out about this guy who got laid off from his corporate job, and he's now been doing voiceover work for like 14 years, and he's parlayed being laid off into now making $400,000 a year doing voiceovers. And he started doing it from his house. And I'm like, okay, I'm a little more interested now, because
that could be you.
I love working from my house.
And you have a great radio voice.
Yeah, but you know, his whole thing was, it's not about talent. It's about, you know, it's really about drive and stuff, you know, and how much work you're willing to put into something. And that's where I get kind of caught up, because I'm generally lazy. So I go, okay, well, what am I willing to do here? So again, I'm just stepping one toe into that industry at the moment. But, you know, considering I've been out of work from my actual job, my business, since March, I don't know how much longer it's going to be. There's a vaccine coming. We'll see how that changes things, you know, but I think I still like that concept, and I've been interested in doing voiceovers for a long, long time. I just never really pushed forward in it. You know, I mean, I took broadcast performance back in college, so I've always had that interest in projecting my voice over the airwaves to some extent, but I never wanted to be like a DJ per se. So anyway, but what makes aging fun for you, Greg? What gives you some excitement in your current Burgerville existence?
Not much.
A new comic
I
book
find
every month, or
I'm the exact opposite of you. The older I get, the more people I meet, I get more discouraged with the human race and how I just want to be a hermit. Um, yeah, I'm a bitter old fuck. I I do like the fact that I don't cry every night like I did in my teens and 20s.
well, I'm sad about
But
that.
yeah, I was a little sad little Smith listening fuck. But I I don't have much. I definitely had more hope then, even though I was so depressed. I was always like, things can change. Things might change. You know, you read stories about a lot of guys who were losers when they're young and they figured it out. But then when you're 50, you know, pushing 40, you're like, things aren't going to change. And then especially when you're 53, you're like, no, this is it. And to be honest, I'm very content. I'm not a sad guy for the most part. I know it sounds like I'm very bleak, but my life's very comfortable. Even though I work at Burgerville, I don't hate my job. It's not the easiest job or rewarding job, but I've got great shit in my house. I get to come home to my nice apartment. I love it. But it does seem like the hope drifts away where, like, who knows? Like, you know, I was in a band in my 20s and we had no chances to be big, but it was always like, ooh, maybe I could make a living off this and not have a day job. Like, and you realize, nah, that's not going to happen, Greg. This is your life. This is it.
But
You're going to
it
be like
doesn't
this.
have to be that bleak, Greg. You can always strive for something more. And be
I know,
interested
that's what
in
I'm
other
saying,
things,
but
yeah.
like you, I don't have the ambition. I didn't even, in my 20s, I didn't have the ambition. I could have done a lot of things that I was really interested in and done better. Like, for example, I was in this band that had some little acclaim in my small town in Tucson, Arizona. Like, it's not that little town. It's
What was the
kind
name
of
of
a
the
big
band?
city.
What was the
The
band
Weird
called?
Love Makers. And we, you know, we went to South by Southwest and we toured and had some albums out from this thing. But I just didn't even like, I could have practiced my guitar so I wouldn't fuck up every time we played. You know what I mean? Like just the little things to do. I was like, nah, this is just fun. I could really work at this and get better. So like, I'm not saying be Jimi Hendrix, just great.
Well, it's
Learn
like
your
that
part.
guy who showed up in the karaoke show the other night. The guy used to be the guitarist for the Red Hot Chili Peppers, right? It's like
Yeah, I
here,
met
he's
that
a
kid
guy who
before.
worked all his life, and then he was with the Chili Peppers for 10 years, and then he gets tossed aside.
Yeah, but that guy's set
Who
for
was
life.
that?
I mean, come on. That guy's
It's a
set
guy
for
named
life, man.
Josh Klinghoffer.
Josh. Oh.
He was like a childhood friend of one of my regulars for karaoke, and she
Uh-huh.
talked him into coming on to my karaoke show Saturday night. Really nice guy.
Really good singer.
Yeah, he was actually a really good singer.
Wow.
I was like, it was kind of surreal because she was hammered, his friend, and kept like talking about his, because we were trying to keep it on the down low that he was a celebrity. You know, she had asked me to not bring it up. I'm like, fine, that's easy for me to do. I won't talk about it, you know. But then she's making all these allusions to him being famous on the show, going, "It's weird that he's such a good singer. He's really talented." Blah blah blah. I'm like, she just does not want to keep the secret at all. You know,
But that guy did just fine. I mean, being in the Red Hot Chili Peppers for 10 years, that guy's set for 10 lifetimes. I
No,
mean,
I
he's a
didn't
billionaire.
realize that I'd seen him before because I wasn't familiar with who the newer guitarist for the Chili Peppers was. But I didn't realize I'd seen him before on that carpool karaoke show that James Corden does.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
So
I
yeah,
guess I saw him too.
you did. You know, it's like, and I decided to watch it again today. I'm like, oh yeah, that was definitely the guy who was on my show. I thought maybe she was like playing a joke on us, but, and you know, he was like this very quiet, unassuming guy. And then I
Yeah.
watched like some of his some clips on YouTube to see like what kind of a guitarist he was. This guy is like freaking high energy. He bounces around more than Flea does on stage, and which was surprising.
I'm pretty sure he was the guitarist in the early '90s. I think that was
No, he didn't join them until 2009, 2010.
Oh God, see, that's
So
when
he's been with him for like the last 10 years. What happened was the guitarist just before him came back, and that's why he lost the job.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So they didn't actually really want to get rid of him, but they really had rapport with the guy who had left. So yeah. But actually, those two guys are pretty good. They were good friends apparently at one point. But anyway, but nice guy. But all I'm saying is that Greg you wanted to do this great thing in punk music, and if you would practice more. Like it's no guarantee that you would have this.
Oh no,
especially
I
in
have the talent.
punk
That's
music.
the
Like how many punk bands? I'm sure you can only count them on one, maybe two hands have gone.
Yeah, it was the 90s.
Skyrocketed, into
the 90s was a weird time where it's like, wow, punk bands. It's not like I thought we were going to be Green Day by any means, but I just thought any band or any artistic endeavor, if you're doing art and you don't have a day job, even if you're living poverty wages, you win. That's awesome. If you like have this art you love, like you're a crafter, you make socks or something, and you get to support yourself, that's great. That's the best life I could have hoped for. If I could have just toured.
If you're doing the life you love doing, which is kind of what's happening with me with karaoke, is it's not a huge income, but it's a better income than a lot of people make working minimum wage running my show, and I just run it 4 nights a week, so I still make more than a lot of people who work 5 days a week, but still at the same time it's something I really enjoy doing, and that's the part about it that I like the most.
That's great.
And for me it's just like buying audio equipment makes me happy.
Right. So, yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So Greg, it's never too late.
Yes, Greg, it's not.
I want to be that. I could have stayed in that corporate job and kept that money, probably negotiated better pay, and just fucking phoned it in for the next 10 years. But I didn't do that because I wasn't satisfied with that. So you love comic books. There's no reason, given all of the opportunities out there, that you couldn't make at least the same amount of money that you're making now doing comic book
That's
shit.
Not true. It's worse.
No, it is true.
When I was a kid, I loved comics. That was my other passion. It was more than punk rock. I liked comic books, and I did fanzines and put out comic books. And I could have worked at it, but I was too lazy. I never had the ambition, and that takes a lot of hard work to become a great.
No, I'm not talking about making comic books. I'm talking about commenting on comic books, selling comic books, being a comic book expert.
That takes some ambition. There's a lot of competition out there. There's a lot of.
But you know what? It doesn't matter.
If there's a lot of competition, that means there's a lot of opportunities to make money at it.
That's right.
Really?
Yes, that's how it works.
I know.
Supply and demand. So there's obviously a demand, and that's really more the thing. But
I know when I get.
But if you can find the thing but you're not so lazy. You go to you're on time to your job every day. You flip burgers 8 hours a week. Would you rather work on comic books 8 hours a day?
Yeah, but then I'm exhausted after doing that, so I don't want to do anything when I get home. I just.
But what I'm saying though is that wouldn't you be happier working on comic books 8 hours a day?
Yeah.
Okay,
but
so
that's a rock star job. That's like saying, "Hey, Greg, you'd be a rock star." Like working in comics is like. Not a lot of guys want to do that and they don't get to do it. Believe me. It's not as bad.
You should find some way to get into Dark Horse, man. Be like a flunky for Dark Horse. You get the same pay.
Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example.
A guy with no computer skills. They don't want a guy who doesn't know how to use his Facebook page.
Well, they might hire you just to clean the freaking toilets, but you'd be working at a comic book company.
I could work my way up.
That's right. But you would be at a comic book company, You'd be like in a place
where to just pick their brain.
And it's not that far from you. You could take a bus to Dark Horse.
No, I know. I've been there.
Okay. Downtown Milwaukee, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Milwaukee. That's an Oregon thing, right?
Yes, with an IE.
All I'm saying relative to your competition thing, Greg, because I'm a huge Star Wars nerd, right?
You can tell by his hat.
Yeah. Now this is sort of just accidental. But do you know how many YouTube channels there are about Star Wars? 100%, not movies, just 100% Star Wars shit.
Do you think those guys are making money?
I know that at least 5 of them have 1 million subscribers.
Yeah. Oh, so if I had a computer, I might be able to do that.
So that's
what happened to that tablet we had you charge last week.
I got it. Get some Wi-Fi going. And
But I
then
told
after
you how you
work-
could do the Wi-Fi is off of your phone, probably.
It's
Yeah,
not
just hotspot
working.
your phone.
Yeah.
Have
It's saying like you have to have Wi-Fi to set it up with your phone to link
no,
it
your
up.
your phone. Does your phone have a hotspot capability?
It does, and it's not. It doesn't seem to be working.
What do you mean?
It's like it says you need Wi-Fi to link your phone up to this tablet. And
No,
then
I'm not
when
talking
press-
about that. I'm just talking about setting up the hotspot on your phone. First of all,
I guess I don't know how to do that. See, that's the
Okay.
thing. The reason I have no ambition is because I've always been really dumb, and I figured that none of my dreams would come to fruition because I would fail.
Greg, if you're really dumb, we wouldn't have really interesting conversation or slightly interesting
No, that's
conversations
just me
every
being
week.
drunk and spouting shit off. I mean, that's
So-
not smart.
You know how to use
Okay.
the word erudite and hirsute earlier. You're not
This
dumb.
is true. I'm not a moron. I'm not a
Like,
simpleton.
you're not a cretin.
A cretin, yes.
Yes. Going back to one of our earlier episodes.
You know what? I got a whole bunch of nerd technology friends. I'm gonna find you a fucking laptop, dude.
No, I have one. Well, I
Yes.
have a tablet.
Yeah,
I
he
know
doesn't
that.
know the difference between a tablet and a laptop.
Yeah,
Okay.
And what he doesn't
I-
have is he doesn't have Wi-Fi. Is what he doesn't have.
Okay, well that's what step one is. Let's get. I'm
Greg
gonna get you.
Wi-Fi.
I'm gonna get you a laptop for Christmas. I'm gonna figure that shit
No,
out.
you don't have to do that.
No, I don't have to do it. You're right, but I will.
I don't like charity.
No, I'm not. It's not charity. You know what? This is one of those things that makes me happy. Like if I could get you a laptop, that would make me happy because you don't have one. Now the Wi-Fi, you're gonna have to fucking solve that shit yourself.
Oh, I'll do that. Yeah, I could do that.
So if I get you a laptop, will you get Wi-Fi?
Could you afford
Yes, I
60?
will. I
Could you
promise.
afford $60 a month, Greg, for something?
Is that how much it costs
Not
up there?
now.
I don't know what it is in Portland. I'm
Not
just using
now,
it
but
as a
after-
number.
Wait, couldn't it be bundled into my phone bill? Like, so would it be $60? I'm already paying for phone and unlimited data.
Well, what you should do is you should contact your phone service and see what it would
Okay.
cost to add Wi-Fi to your.
I can't
your
right
house.
now, but after the new year, I'll be in a better position. So I
Okay,
might be
so-
able to afford
Who's your phone company?
AT&T.
Okay. They've got a plan. We figure that shit out. Negotiate that shit. We get
Yeah.
you Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Okay.
You shouldn't have to pay. How much are you paying for your phone and whatever cable or whatever the hell you have?
I pay $100 for unlimited data, a cell phone, a smartphone.
You, yeah. What? How long have you been with AT&T?
God, 20 years.
Okay, fuck those guys. It's time to fuck those guys over and get you some Wi-Fi.
Okay, I will. Because believe me, guys, I have podcast ideas out the wazoo. You don't want to talk about this shit. Like I have comic, and I listen to these
Yeah.
podcasts. I might be able to get a little Patreon shit going.
You should.
Absolutely.
You know,
Remember
they're
that sweet
I was just looking
Patreon?
up AT&T online right now. They have holiday offers going on. So you should check into holiday offers through AT&T
Yeah.
in terms of getting yourself Wi-Fi.
I will.
You don't have to
After
get
the new year.
the top. No, I'm saying look into it now. You could call them and see how much it would cost.
I know.
That
Well,
that
might be the
shouldn't
same,
stop
you're
you.
right.
Finding out doesn't cost anything.
It takes ambition
Takes
and a lack of laziness.
takes looking at a website on your phone.
Yeah.
Well, what else are you gonna do? What
All
else
I'm
do you got to do?
Oh
Greg?
my God. Millions of things. Look up comic sites on my phone, comic podcasts, nerdy shit, read comic books.
You could
Right.
all look it up on your tablet that way.
But what if you were doing that and getting paid? I mean, I don't know how much you make.
Oh my God, I would love it. Like
Burger
even the thing
Town.
Matt suggested. Matt offered to us, like, hey, you guys want to pick up some of these gigs reviewing websites? I mean, that's way better than flipping burgers at Burgerville, but I couldn't do it because I didn't have a computer. But I
Right.
was like, I'd do
That's your
that.
problem. That's
I know.
the problem. All
Because I don't
right.
even have the ambition to make my life slightly better. It's not even a good ambition.
So as the Sith Lord of this threesome,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get you a computer.
He will get you computer.
No, I can get one. I can figure it out if I really wanted to. That's the thing.
I'm gonna be your motivation and figure that shit out for you.
He's gonna harass
Okay.
you, Greg. So I was thinking, we should start wrapping up. That we should do a wrap-up show of all the episodes for the new year. For December 30th is a Wednesday, so it's like the day before New Year's. That's when we should do our
Okay.
check every episode out show.
That's like our 6-month anniversary, roughly, right?
Something like that.
It's in June.
It's our COVID-anniversary.
COVID anniversary.
That's right. That's
It
what
rolls
is.
off the tongue.
It does.
I like
It's incredible.
COVID anniversary.
So what would we like to talk about next week? What do we want? So we got 1, 2, 3 weeks before that show happens. So we could come up with something interesting. We could come up with something involving Greg getting Wi-Fi in the next couple of weeks. It's like the whole
I don't know about
discussion
that.
is
I was
about
thinking we
that.
should talk about the media.
The media.
That's been a big thing the past 4 years. The media.
It's been around a long time, Greg. What do you have
I
in mind?
know, but now it's become a hot point. The fake media.
Now
media.
it's become a hot point? Where have you been?
It's been no, it's definitely the past 4 years. It's become a thing that fake media, all that shit.
Fake news?
Have we done
It's
a thing
always
on?
been fake news, but now it's become a thing.
All right, Greg.
Now, like right now, it's a thing.
It's a thing. What about social media specifically?
For a second, I thought you were going to say
Ooh.
sweater vests, so we could do a whole episode on sweater vests.
Yes,
That could be
that's
good
exactly-
social media. Because I just saw a Social Dilemma. Is that the name of the Netflix?
You know, I
thing?
just watched that too. It was actually a really good movie. I was surprised.
Mhm.
I hated the thing with the kid though. The whole after school special thing of having that teenager. That ruins it.
What? What?
Do you remember in the social media, there's this little thing they have, a linking device where
The
it's like
social
this
network?
a teenager who like goes before that tribunal of those 3 guys who are telling him like, you're going to listen to this. And the kid looks like he's 28. He's supposed to be a high school student.
Wait, what movie? You're not talking about the
Oh.
social network, the story of
No.
like Zuckerberg, are you?
No, a social dilemma.
The
is a
social
documentary.
dilemma.
Oh, I was thinking of the
Do
social
you remember
network.
that? There's
No,
that kid.
I saw Social Network, not Social Dilemma.
Oh, that's a different one, huh?
Yeah,
Different.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I don't know
that's
that
why I
one.
was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like
But a
Social-
social dilemma is
Social
very
Network
powerful.
is a great movie.
Yeah.
David
But I hated that
Fincher.
part, the dramatization part with the kid, the teenager.
Yeah, Social
was-
Dilemma, I haven't seen.
Yeah,
It's powerful.
I've seen it, Greg, and I know what you're saying. It seemed a little ridiculous, but
Yeah.
whatever.
But
There's a
all
lot of
the-
those ridiculous documentaries out there.
All the actual documentary information in there is very powerful, and it's all stuff you gut knew in your gut, and seeing it all coalesce, you're like, wow, social media has fucked us up, like apocalyptically so. Like we're fucked because of
Okay,
this shit.
you know, actually, that's probably not a bad idea. We could like delve into social
It's
media
powerful shit.
in the for like the as our next client.
Yeah.
Social media on trial.
I
yes.
don't know if we're ready for another on trial, but we can certainly do something
What-
with it.
Whatever
needs
you
to be on
guys
trial.
do, just text me at
3 in the
3
morning.
a.m.
Okay,
about your ideas.
you bet.
That's
Oh, I
the
You
will.
thing.
got it. Because usually Greg's in rare form whenever the karaoke shows are over. So that's the perfect time for us to be sending you texts.
I'm more brilliant than. I'm drinking a 5th of bourbon, and
Jerkin,
my ideas are like on fire.
you have fire ideas, like Fire Island, but they're your ideas. All right. So what was the show today? What was our client? Our client was aging is fun, but hard on the knees. And I think it may have been hard on a lot of people going, oh, God, we're just hearing about old guys talking about their medical issues.
This is what I
was
do every
thinking-
day.
I was
Talking to
thinking,
people on the
this is
phone.
like, oh, this is like talking to like my grandfather. What the hell? Why am I listening to these guys?
Wait, before you go, can we do a demographic check? I know
Haven't
we
done.
stopped doing that.
We did. We haven't checked it in a long time. A few weeks.
Oh, so you
So-
can't just pop a button and pull it up?
Well, I just didn't have it
Yeah.
set. So, yeah, our listenership has definitely gone way down over the last few weeks.
All right.
How surprising.
Well, it's because there was an algorithm change within Anchor, and so they made it so there's more real data as opposed to before where the data wasn't quite as real. So speaking of fake news, so in terms of
How many listeners?
demographics, the podcast where people are listening to us from, or the listening platforms. Apple Podcast is at 26%, Spotify is 8%, Anchor is 8%, Overcast is 6%, and then there's other, which is 48%. So people are listening to us on apparently a bunch of other platforms.
How
But
many people, though?
demographic-wise, our key demographics are the ages of 45 to 59, and that's at 77% listening is that demographic.
Male or
35,
female?
35 to 40, I don't know that yet. 35
Oh,
to 44 is
does
7%, 28 to 34 is 1%, but 23 to 27 is 2%. 60 plus is 7%. So with the sweet spot for us is the ages of 45 to 59. And it's females are 73%, 20% male, and 6 non-specified.
Oh,
Whoa, 6 not specified.
Yes.
Awesome.
any new weird things with the countries, Matt? Like any new countries have picked us up?
Well, United States is now at 91%.
We've offended everyone else in the world.
We have France
Good.
France is down to 6%. Everybody else is under 1%. So the
Yeah.
under 1%ers are Ireland, Canada, India, Nigeria, Brazil, Germany, Ukraine, Philippines, Bangladesh, Singapore, and United Kingdom.
Now, because of this new algorithm, is there really someone in Singapore listening to us?
Well, it could be, but what it just means is that we have less plays that are happening. But I forgot to mention this, guys. We have had over 1,000 total plays of all of the podcasts put together. So that's something to be said.
Do you mean listen to?
Yes,
Listen to.
2 times where they've listened to our podcasts. It's happened over 1,000 times.
The last week, how many people listened?
16.
Oh, man.
16 plays. Well, this is per episode. So
I know, but 3 of them are us.
So the Heroes were 16 plays. The Sitcoms on Trial was 16. The Steaming Pile of Democracy was 23. Before that was Ballots, Bullets, and Burgers, and that was 31 plays. Prior to that was 27 plays of the Urban Legends, and then the Halloween Turnip was 38 plays. I still love that title. And then the Entertainment is Bad for You has gone up to 46. It was kind of low before. It's bumped up from it was before. And then Marriage and Glue Sniffing is at 51, and the next highest is Idiocracy at 55, and then the Second Client 59, and then the First Client still is number 1 at 74 plays. So,
because that's
there
the
you
first
go.
episode, and that's
It
what we would
was.
try. And then
And
they
then
say,
No,
I'm not coming back.
I can't listen to more of this.
No.
I'd be happy if people just read the titles and go, these are slightly clever. If I could get somebody to just message us that saying, yes, your titles are slightly clever, but I don't listen to you at all, I'd be okay with that. But if they don't listen, they can't hear me asking for that. Anyway, so we need pithy and profound. All right, so Brendan, you do pithy. Greg, you do profound.
Oh,
But
God.
pithy. Fuck that owl on his wall.
Okay, Greg, what do you got?
In this lonely time of autumn, I go upon a long and lonely journey, severing all ties.
Severing? You mean severing?
Severing? Sure.
This has been the law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker Computer Telecast, where any advice has been designed purely for amusement and deep-sea diving. Please take a candy on your way out, pet the lion tamer, and subscribe to this computer telecast if you know it's good for you. The law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker deny all culpability in today's events and are not to be confused with the real law offices that have a secretary and books and stuff. Thank you all. Have a good day.